You want answers?
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical Rant.
Why are they jailing a pot doc in Colorado? CBS Local Denver reported the story of Dr. Joseph Montante this week. He was convicted in a Colorado court of recommending medical marijuana to a patient without first establishing a bona fide doctor-patient relationship. Dr. Montante was stripped of his medical license and sentenced to 30 days in jail and 3 years probation. In Colorado, where marijuana is legal for recreational purposes. So why exactly do we need to jail this man and ruin his career? Law enforcement brought down this nefarious threat to society by sending in an undercover officer to get a recommendation from Montante. Yes, less than half of all violent crimes and less than a fifth of all property crimes lead to an arrest in America. But we've got all the police time and resources we need to conduct undercover stings on pot docs in a legalized pot state. Now, this rant doesn't go quite the same if I'm telling the story in Washington. Sure, it's both medical and legal there too, but there is quite a difference. Recreational consumers in Washington can possess an ounce of marijuana, but medical consumers can possess 1.5 pounds. Recreational consumers in Washington don't get the home cultivation right that medical consumers in the state get, which amounts to 15 plants in any stage of growth. The only similarity between Washington and Colorado in this regard is that medical consumers in both states can shop for cannabis at established retail outlets, while recreational users can't yet. Higher possession limits, home cultivation, and dispensaries, well, that all provides great incentive for a recreational consumer to go medical in Washington. In Colorado, however, there really isn't that much of a difference between a recreational and a medical consumer. A recreational consumer gets 1 ounce, a medical consumer gets 2. Both of them are allowed to grow 3 mature plants and 3 immature plants. There are the well-established dispensaries, more than Starbucks, where medical consumers get to shop and recreational consumers don't. It would seem then the purpose of the undercover stings is to make sure recreational consumers stay out on the black market until the pot shops open? Okay, well then weed dealers throughout the Rocky Mountains say thank you. And as an aside, isn't that more dispensaries than Starbucks line getting old? It's not even relevant. They're comparing the number of sales outlets for cannabis versus one sales outlet for coffee. Shouldn't we be comparing the number of places you can legally buy a bag of weed to the number of places you can legally buy a cup of joe? Anyway, of course there is more to it than making sure a healthy person who can buy illegally, have 1 ounce, and grow plants isn't faking it, so he can buy legally, have 2 ounces, and grow the same number of plants. Because, you know me, I've forgotten the most important part of this equation: the children. Drug investigators say the doctor's supervision is incredibly important, reports CBS Local Denver, because although 18 to 21-year-olds are not eligible for recreational pot, they are eligible for medical marijuana. Aha. So we had to jail this pot doc and ruin his career to protect college kids from seeing a doctor and paying the state for a privilege they will attain 1 to 3 years from now. Okay, I got it. Except, you know, when you really think about it, there's always been an incentive for an 18 to 20-year-old in Colorado to get a red card. Their recreational use was just as illegal before Amendment 64 as it is now. In fact, it's less incentive now because young people that age often have 21-year-old friends. I mean, So long as everyone hands their weed to the 21-year-old and it's all less than an ounce combined, nobody's going to jail. So I thought, maybe we ought to just look up the numbers. Let's see what's happened with the 18 to 20-year-olds in the state of Colorado. So I took a look at the National Survey on Drug Use and Health online, and I found that in the 2002-2003 survey year, 29% of 18 to 20-year-olds smoked pot monthly in Colorado, just the state of Colorado, and another 13% smoked pot annually. In the most recent 2010 to 2011 survey, a tiny bit fewer smoked monthly and a tiny bit greater smoked annually. But surprisingly, the young adults who didn't ever try pot increased by 2.6 percentage points. So during that time, the number of people with red cards increased dramatically. It doesn't appear as if that changed young adult use any. So what again is this huge emergency that required an undercover sting operation and the imprisonment of a doctor? This concern about the children seems like a little bit of a rationalization to me. It's not like they sent in 21 Jump Street to investigate the doctor. The daring undercover detective assigned to the case lied to Dr. Montante by claiming he hurt his ankle several years ago playing basketball in high school. Several is generally thought of as more than 3 and less than 10. And high school age is 14 to 18. So my guess is that the detective did not present an identity under the age of 21. Now, once the pot shops open in Colorado, I can't really see much of a reason for a recreational system to run alongside a medical system, especially as the medical dispensaries in Colorado get first dibs on becoming the pot shops. And yet, Colorado is going to be running 2 completely separate systems, to the point where if you're one of the shops that's a combination medical and recreational shop, you'll have to maintain 2 completely separate lines of inventory and tracking. My God, we can't have a gram from the White Widow medicinal plant getting mixed up with a gram from the White Widow recreational plant, because then, I don't know, zombie apocalypse? What happens if that happens? I don't know. So another consideration is in the Colorado law, they allow you, whether you're recreational or medical, to grow 3 mature plants and 3 immature plants, and to keep the results of your harvests at the grow site. And those plurals are very important. These are the results. All that you grew, you can keep at your grow site from every harvest that you have. And if you're rotating 3 plants in every however many weeks you can do that, you could potentially have a whole lot of weed in a very short time. So since everybody who's growing at home in Colorado can keep the results of his or her harvest, there's really no limit to the amount of medicine a patient could keep on hand, even without getting a red card. There's really no incentive for the heavy chronic recreational user to go medical, because they can keep all the weed at the place they need and be able to grow it without going through the hassle of seeing the doctor. So long as this separate medical system is maintained, somebody has to be the gatekeeper. And if so, we're going to keep seeing stories of doctors like Dr. Montante doing time, losing their license, because some court didn't think their examination of an undercover cop was thorough enough. And this just seems absurd to me in the state of Colorado, which now has a constitutional right that recognizes the personal right to use and grow cannabis. What purpose remains for keeping a medical marijuana system in the state of Colorado? I can think of maybe a few. Maybe you keep your red card so that you can have that extra ounce. That's, I'm sure, valid for some people. Maybe you keep your red card so that you can take advantage of the reciprocity that is offered in, 5 or 6 other states now with their medical marijuana systems. Maybe it's 7 now. But that could be a possibility as to why we want to keep this. But it seems to me the hassles that we put in forcing all of the retail outlets to maintain 2 completely separate systems and the potential for the sliver of demographic between 18 and 20 that would want to abuse that system to get in, seems to me that it might not be worth the hassle. Perhaps medical marijuana should just be something that's reserved to people 20 and younger. There are those stories of Charlotte Fiji and the other children that are using the Charlotte's Web strain, the high CBD strain in Colorado. Perhaps that's what medical marijuana is for, is to ensure that people under the age of 21 are using it medically, and exclusively that's for medical. And once you're above the age of 21, we recognize that you have the right to use cannabis for whatever reason you so choose. If the focus were only on keeping people under the age of 21, then perhaps these stings make more sense. But when you're sending in an undercover officer who's clearly not going to be under the age of 21, and he qualifies under the program's chronic pain condition for his ankle pain that he talks about, it makes no sense to me to want to try to stop that doctor. If you're really concerned about the children, you should have been sending in someone with that was underage. But as I understand it, for underage people, and maybe I'm going to have to check the Colorado law on this as to whether it applies to under 21 or under 18, but I was under the understanding that 2 doctors had to sign off in Colorado. Maybe that's why you don't do the undercover sting with someone presenting under the age of 21, because it will be harder to prove your case against 2 doctors not having a bona fide relationship. I'd be interested to find out a little bit more about this case. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, this is a completely different scenario in Washington state, where recreational users do not have home grow rights and where the possession limits are completely different between recreational and medical. There you can see quite an incentive for people to want to become medical growers in order to get that home grow right and those large possession amounts. So we'll keep our eye on what's happening in Colorado, keep our eye on Washington state as these things develop. Will medical and recreational be able to coexist? It's something we can talk about in Toker Talk Radio coming up next in hour 2 of the Russ Belville Show, where you are the voice of the Marijuana Nation, and our phone lines will be open at 971-533-7111. We're also hanging out with Brian the Red here. We'll find out what's going on with him and the Red Eyes Reggae Flashback, which will be coming back very, very soon. Thanks for joining us here from Roller J Studios in beautiful Potland, Oregon. I'm Radical Russ Belville. For Brian the Red and everyone here at 420 Radio, thanks for listening. Log on today and become a VIP member. Help support 420 Radio. Check out our prime sponsors. Support them so they'll continue to support us. And visit our 420 Radio shop where we got all sorts of cool swag, including pins, stickers, posters, and more. Thanks again for listening, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.